So if you're anywhere in the Vancouver area and you like to talk about Canucks stuff on social media, you've probably seen this idea floating around the past few hours, especially heading into yesterday when the New York Islanders hired Patrick Roy. They fired Lane Lambert, they got the new guy in. Roy is cleanly shaven, he's running practice, and of course, Islanders fans are hyped. But because of the new coaching situation on Long Island, there are some Canucks ideas that are floating around that relate to a certain former Canuck who has been a part of quite a few coaching changes the past few months. And I say months and not years because this literally extends past to just over 2 years ago. Today we're talking about Bo Horvat, and what I wanted to do was go over some of the things floating around about him. I wanted to give my thoughts on that. Also, I wanted to use this video as an opportunity to cater to my second favorite team, the Montreal Canadiens, and talk about a guy who has been on this squad and just update what he's been up to as well. We're also talking about Alexander Romanov in this video, just because, we're in the area, we could stop by, have some conversations about him. So what exactly is the Bo Horvat thing that's going on? Well, the second Lane Lambert was fired and Patrick Roy was hired, you started to see this narrative bubbling around in Vancouver social media. I think this tweet from Grady goes out there and sums up the idea nicely. He went out there and said this as a reply to the Islanders' announcement that they fired Lambert. I'm not pinning this on Bo Horvat because hockey is a team sport, but Patrick Roy is the fifth coach that Bo Horvat has had over the past 25 months, which is interesting given the turn of events. Travis Green, Bruce Boudreau, Rick Tocchet, Lane Lambert, and now Patrick Roy. And if you wanted a breakdown of the dates, Big Head Hockey went out there and labeled it all out. December 4th, 2021, Bo Horvat's head coach was Travis Green. The next day, it was Bruce Boudreau. On January 22nd, 2023, the Canucks hired Rick Tocchet, and that was kind of like the new wave, the transition into what the Vancouver Canucks are now. And then, just a few days later, Bo Horvat was traded to the Island. Lane Lambert was his coach then. Now, 1 year later, you have yourselves Patrick Roy, who is the new coach of the Islanders, and Bo Horvat is suiting up for his fifth coach in 25 months. Now, this, of course, isn't really anything that goes against Bo. There are some people throwing out, tossing around jokes saying, oh, Bo Horvat is a coach killer, he plays a bad game and he gets his coaches fired and all this stuff. No, that's not the thing here. Sure, Canucks fans are joking around about that, but that's all just jokes. What I think really this means is encapsulated pretty well by what Grady went out there and replied on his own Twitter thread that we just looked at. Take a look at this. So a reply from Chris goes out there and says, yeah, I'm trying to pin it on Bo with a smiley emoji, so he's joking. Grady says, I'm curious where that would rank in terms of that sample. It's pretty wild to me. People automatically want to dunk on Bo Horvat, but it just shows you that the teams he's been on were unstable. And really, that's all there is to it, I feel. When Bo Horvat was with the Vancouver Canucks last year, heck, let's even go back to when Bruce Boudreau was hired and Travis Green was fired. In that season, in 21-22, Bo Horvat had 52 points, 31 goals in 70 games played. This season was really important for Vancouver because it was the first time the Canucks had a 30-goal scorer since Radim Vrbata in 2014-15, and the Canucks had 3 30-goal scorers in that year. You may remember this, we made a big deal about it because for me personally, watching the Canucks throughout my teen years and seeing them just not do well, it was kind of noteworthy to see how Verbata's record and legacy was being held up for so long, and I have way too many Verbata PNG files on my computer making thumbnails on him because of it. But either way, Bo Horvat was good in that final Travis Green to Bruce Boudreau year. Sure, he might not have exploded in the same way that, let's say, Brock Besser did when Bruce Boudreau was initially brought on, but even in the season afterwards, where Bruce was eventually fired and Rick Tocchet was hired and Bo Horvat was traded shortly after, 31 goals in 49 games played for the Vancouver Canucks last year and 54 total points before getting traded. He was already such a stud, and it didn't matter if it was Bruce Boudreau or if it was Rick Tocchet, because if you go over to Bo's game log, in the 3 games that Bo Horvat played under Rick Tocchet for the Vancouver Canucks before getting traded, he had a goal and 4 assists. Dude, that 4 assist game against Columbus, that was crazy. Bo shortly got traded afterwards. It was the All-Star break, and by the time the season got back up again, he was on the island, but this really is just an indicator as to how well Bo has been. even ending off his season with the Islanders. I mean, 16 points, 30 games, that's not the best number you would like to see, but this season he's gotten back up to a point per game, 42 points, 44 games played, 18 goals too. Bo may not be on pace for a career year in goals this season. He's on pace for only 33. Last season he had 38 total. But he's still been good enough to be one of the top guys on the Islanders in points. Only Barzal and Dobson have more points than he does, which is kind of nuts considering that Dobson's a defenseman. So for Bo Horvat, even though he's really been kind of the bad luck charm of all these coaches, it's tough to blame anything on him because hockey is a team sport. It's just more so a representation of the fragility of the squads around him and how he gets placed into bad positions. It's kind of unlucky that the Canucks started winning a lot after he got traded away, but hey, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, right? Now on to the other guy that I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about Alexander Romanov. And part of the reason I find this so interesting is because Romanov is a guy that nobody really talks about, and that's not really like a bad thing, per se. I think most of y'all already know this, but I am a secondary Canadiens fan. The Canucks are my favorite team, the Habs are my number 2. And so when Alexander Romanov was traded from Montreal to the New York Islanders, and then the Canadiens traded that pick away for Kirby Dach, it was an interesting move, because for Romanov, this was a guy who, with the Montreal Canadiens, had 13 points in 79 games played in the last season he played, and was not really seen as a guy that could become like a point producer, you know? Like, you look at the numbers, you say, okay, well, he got 22 points in 76 games with the Islanders last season. That's not too spectacular, but it's pretty okay. Even this season, Romanov has 11 points in 45 games played, on pace for about 20 on the season too. And that's kind of the thing you have to think about when you're analyzing Romanov and his game. The Montreal Canadiens and their fans acknowledged this, but Alexander Romanov was never really supposed to be a point-producing defenseman. Sure, he had that World Junior stint all those years ago, where he was a point per game and he absolutely lit the tournament on fire. That's kind of what put him on the map in the first place. But as Romanov made himself an NHL home, he became more of that shutdown rock. Just a guy who could make good plays in his own zone, dish out big hits, block a lot of shots, and log minutes. That was the profile that he played in the NHL. It was different than what he had at the World Juniors, and Canadiens fans, for the most part, kind of accepted it as reality. Okay, yeah, this is just what Romanov is. Like, you're never going to get points out of certain guys, like the Dave Savards or the Joel Edmondsons of the world, the Ben Sherratts. We acknowledge that these guys have roles in the NHL, and when everything works together, you could actually have a team that goes to the gosh darn Stanley Cup Finals, right? It's just for Romanov, he was playing on a team in Montreal that had so many defensemen that it was kind of tough to find whether or not he'd really fit into the long-term picture. With Caden Gooley, Logan Mailloux, Justin Barron, Arbor Xhekaj, Jordan Harris, Jaden Struble, all these other guys in the mix too, it's a big bottleneck of defensemen. And so trading Romanov away to the Islanders was fine because they got Kirby Dach as a result of the entire trade tree there. And for Romanov, I'm honestly kind of happy to say this, but he has been just an absolute beast for the Islanders. Even though the points, may not ever be too spectacular, I do have Romanov on my fantasy team because hits and blocks are really valuable in my league, and he has just been an absolute tank. Like, you go over to some of the numbers here. I mean, he's averaging about 20 plus minutes a night. He averages at least a hit or two a game. And in terms of blocks, I mean, the guy is a shot blocking machine. He averages 2.4 blocks a game, which is pretty good when you think about just the defensive style the Islanders have played over the past few years that has sort of carried over into this season's worth of play. He also sometimes gets crazy high games where he gets like 24, 25 minutes a night. There was a stint at the beginning of the month where he was consistently over 20, 24, 24, 24, 22, 22, 25-minute games. And as a result, it's good for me because the more time on ice he gets, the more shot blocks he ends up getting. But for Romanov and Montreal Canadiens fans wanting to tune in, seeing how he's doing, he's honestly been fine. And there aren't really any complaints I can see in regards to Islanders fans and what they're seeing out of this guy. Sure, you would always like to see guys get more offense, but still, for Romanov, I mean, he's playing with Noah Dobson, he's on that top pair, he's doing all right, and Noah Dobson is carrying the offensive load, so if anything, I feel like that pairing is just set in stone with the offensive guy and the defensive guy, and that works. So, for the Montreal Canadiens fans that are tuning in, it's alright. For the Canucks fans tuning in, please try not to clown too much on Bo Horvat because it's not his fault that he's gone through 5 coaches in the past 25 months. But for Islanders fans, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these two guys and how they've been on your team so far. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.